Buffering. And we are live with the Q&A&Critique number 72. That is almost a whole year and a half. Well, a bit under a year and a half of doing this. So I'm very happy to be connected with some good friends, some good people. If you're here on time, thank you for connecting and being here in Discord or on Twitch or YouTube. And if you're watching this for later, well, I'm glad you're watching this as well. So this is a Let's Be 4 Artists 3 edition, where we do a live stream digital art, questions and answers. And the topic for today has a special guest. He has spoken here before. He's a geometry nodes plants specialist, I would say, very good at what he does. And lately he has been participating with the foliage of a game jam in the Discord server set up by Erindales. So right now they're having a Christmas game jam and they're creating a game within 2 weeks inside of Unity. And they have been running a collaboration with a number of different artists from the server with a very cool art style, very interesting game mechanic, and it is currently well underway. So without further ado, I guess we can get into the topics, which is low poly tree modeling. So we're going to take a look at the trees. I'm going to be asking Pleebs a number of questions on his workflow. Maybe we can make some trees of our own. We're also going to take a look at a very cool technique for shading, a very consistent color system for 3D modeling. This is what we call color swatches. And from there, we're going to take a look at Erindales' game jam progress. So I hope you're ready. I hope you're going to be enjoying this, and buckle up and let's get going. So how are you, Pleebs?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, pretty good as well. Very busy for the end of the year, but having a good time. Cool, Sam's connecting later. All right, so let's take a look at your work. So here I have this file opened up, and I wanted to ask you, so tell me, what have you been working on with this game jam? And can you tell me more about this game jam?
Yeah, so it's a game jam on the Erindale Discord and hosted by that community. It's usually, I think it's the third one, this one. And it's usually like around 2 weeks and everyone comes together and makes a game. Like not that kind of competitive game jam, but just for the fun of making something with a playable end result, hopefully. Yeah, and then I made some foliage for, and that's kind of a long question. Yeah, so it's always fun. Last time I did some blends as well with some alpha transparency textures and a blender shader. I made an atlas with compositor, and it's kind of a nice workflow for certain kind of leaves. And this time I decided to make something else, and with the direction this game is kind of going, which was I mean like the art direction, which was directed by Crackles from the Erindale Discord. I think he probably has the same name in the socials.
Yep.
Was like some nice reference and the color swatch. So yeah, basically I said everything.
Yeah, that's right. I've been following this game jam just passively to some degree. But I've been noticing you've got these characters coming up. You've got this color swatch system, which hopefully you can explain to me how it works later. And there's a lot going on. We also have rigs and animation already. That's very cool looking. Darkfall has done a very good job. Man, that was amazing. Let's full screen this. Why isn't it working?
I also really like the ones Killim did with and the ice bear. The ice bear is amazing. too.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, well, nice one, Killen. And actually, since you're also on the Game Jam here, Killen, what have you been working on with this project?
So I made those houses that you're looking at right now.
Oh, wow.
I made a few other house assets too, like a mushroom, a water tower. Yeah, the mushroom houses, the shoe houses. I also made 1, 2, 3. I made about 4 characters animated with a rig, water tower, and then a couple other buildings that didn't end up getting used because they weren't fitting with the art style. But particularly, I think I'm really proud of my angry worm.
Wow, this seems like a lot of assets in this game.
Not quite as much as the last game jam. I think, yeah, that's the 2 dudes carrying a pane of glass that you can drive into.
Smash it just for fun.
Yeah, I think I contributed like 15 or 16 individual assets.
It's quite a few.
Last game jam apparently was over 100. But yeah, no, it's been really fun. It's been great following Quackle's art direction for this.
Yeah, the art direction for this game is on point. Now here's the angry worm.
He's so aggressive.
Rah, rah. So are these rigged characters, or are they kind of like 2 shape keys of a single mesh?
They are rigged, but it's just 2 shape keys.
Interesting.
Or two individual keyframes that he's snapping between. Oh, the polar bear is really nicely animated too.
Oh yeah, that's pretty decent.
That was Shmuel, or who did that one? So bad.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he did a really good job animating the rear end.
And that was Shmuel. Nice. That's cool. I'm Shmuel, if you're watching back on this, nice job. Yes, very impressed actually.
Oh, speak of the devil.
Yeah.
So this is your work, Pleebs. I've noticed that you've been working on all of the foliage, which I have here in the 3D view. And this is where I'm going to dive deep and go down the rabbit hole. And also get in.
That's my twerking.
I really like that one too.
Did you guys see my beer?
Yes, we did just now, actually. Well done.
Yeah.
I think it's quite hilarious.
You did a fantastic job with that bear.
The walk cycle's pretty fun. I quite like it a lot.
It's like my first time I've done like a rigged character moving.
Fortunately, it's low poly. That's a very good introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking about you. So I'm glad you could come in. So wow, practically everyone here of this in this session today has been working on this game jam. Maybe I should get into it. So what's left to do in the progress? There's a big Notion page with the project. There is a style guide, an asset specification guide, a Unity setup guide. Do you guys know what version of Unity you are using? Are you using the...
It should say it over there.
Unity setup. So the Unity version...
It should be on the main page. Maybe you need to scroll down a bit more.
Section. Okay, so we have collectible items, which are nearly done. Environment assets, which is going well. 32 already is done. Smashable items, 15. You got the shaders, the foliage shader, glow in the dark and pickups, gradient shader, the skybox, the parallax occlusion shader. Got audio and sound design, visual effects. Looks like you got a lot on your plate, Killen, and some things that are not organized in the game development. So by status.
Yeah, now it's just about the assets are like finished almost.
Pretty much.
It's about the developer
getting the game mechanics and the layout design, the level design, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you have snow effects, you got gameplay music, got the driving mechanics that's been worked on in progress. You've got the polar bear, which you're
Didn't
nearly
upload
done.
it yet though.
Ah,
Yeah,
coming on.
I'm gonna upload it and then edit it. So if anything happens, we first have it uploaded version.
Sure. So the driving mechanics is what's coming on. And how long has this project been running so far?
A week and a half.
We're coming to the close for the second week, which I think it started a Saturday 2 weeks ago, I think.
Great. So what was the time frame roughly? From what I recall, you had about 2 full weeks to finish the game, or is this 3 weeks?
I
2.
think it's 2 weeks, but depending on the devs, I think they'll have a few extra days because a number of them are pretty busy right now.
Right, yes, the end of the year. One more week and it's Christmas, another week and the year is done. But looking at the last game jams that you guys done, I know you guys can pull it off, so I'm very impressed. So let's get back to Pleebs here. So Pleebs, you've been working on how many trees, low poly trees that you've been working on?
It's 29 trees and in total 39 assets. No, I think it's 27 trees and 2
Win the
bird
prize
houses.
this year.
Yeah, you've done the
For
most
the
amount of
most
assets.
assets.
And in that file, it's just duplicated 3 times because it's using 3 different UV layouts to have some random color with the same mesh.
That's curious. So in this case, for example, this is something that I wanted to ask you in a technical aspect. The style sheet that Quackles has provided, the style guide, is aiming for gradient textures, which is where you have a color palette material, which has different sections on a square texture. And then inside the game, you would load this texture one time into the buffers, and it would apply to all of the objects. So you could have many different types of meshes and things like that, but they're all using just the one texture, the one material, to bring in a consistent color palette for the entire project. How do you do this?
Well, it's actually pretty simple. Usually when it comes to UVs, I'm pretty afraid, unless it's like just cutting out some leaf cards from an atlas. But I mean, you make an asset, you somehow UV unwrap it, that it kind of works good enough, and then you pull that UVs to an according area on this color swatch. And with Crackles having made such a really beautiful kind of palette, everything kind of magically fits together. Yeah. So there's really not much to worry about color. It's just like trying stuff out and seeing what works. And I think basically, and I have no idea how a nice palette is made. Like it's probably a science of its own. But yeah, in the as a creation process, it's really meditative kind of.
Right. So can you tell me more about how did you model these trees? As I noticed, like I'm looking in the wireframe here. Everything is very low poly. The total project with these trees duplicated 3 times is practically 13,000 triangles, which is not a lot. So, and this is duplicated thrice, so it's practically 1/3 of this, which would be...
It's in total 4,400.
Exactly. So that's very good. Well done. So what's the process, for example? I'm going to take this purple tree and I want to take a look at it. So tell me, how did you use procedural modeling, or you mentioned this was a meditative? destructive modeling that you're using?
Well, a bit of a mix of both, but in the end, it was a major part of manual modeling. Like I started with the fur and which is this one tree made out of cones, and that I actually did in the end because I tried to make it procedural first, and in the end I made just some curve to mesh and then deleted those faces I don't need, which are the ones which kind of are the most horizontal, and made some kind of base meshes with that, which then I could finish pretty fast manually. And after that, I basically kind of started to model a lot manually. The base meshes of it were also created procedural, which in the end, I think it was also just some simple curve to mesh and instancing one or two generations of curves on it. Nothing really too fancy. I also tried Zeppling, the stuff which comes with Blender, because you can not bevel this curve and then do curve to mesh later, which kind of works more procedural than just having Zeppling on its own. But I mean, on this kind of already mobile low poly level of stylization, it's how many branches do you really need? So
Mm-hmm.
Zeppelin wasn't really an option, and also most of the stuff I intended to do with geometry nodes had like 5 or 10 branches, and in the end I ended up like mostly optimizing it. That was the most manual action, optimizing stuff, pushing some vertices around and seeing if it still works visually, and get the tries as low as possible.
Nice. So did you? How did you get like this kind of a randomized shapes inside your meshes? Did you use geometry nodes for that to some degree? Or were you using the actual destructive modeling techniques to do it?
For the first, I did the base meshes like randomly with geometry nodes, made like 7 base meshes. But then in the other cases, I mostly just duplicated meshes around and then changed the width of it and then optimized it a bit further. And yeah, after I had 2 or 3 trees, it's a lot faster because I can have my already pretty clean enough meshes to work with, and then I just make some quick iterations.
That's very cool. And you've done a lot of different types of trees. So concerning the style, like I notice you have some of them are square, some of them are tall, some of them have like a weeping willow type of design, other ones are more like alpine. How did you come up with these design styles, and what were you using as inspiration or reference for this?
At first, I wasn't really sure where the kind of style guide is vegetation-wise going. So if we're using transparency textures or not, which would be like would need some different textures definitely. But I think it's pretty cool to not do that for once and just go with simple shapes.
Yeah.
And after a few days, Quackles posted some reference for trees, and then it was kind of more clear where the visual direction should go. So after that, it was pretty easy to just make something accordingly. And I to
Nice.
look it up. There was like 3 different ArtStation links of low foliage trees.
Nice.
And yeah, there was one of them I really liked it, just a different variation of kind of primitive shapes stuck on trunks, and it was a lot of different varieties that I looked a lot at.
Yeah. And you're not kidding. This is very meditative. Like, it's super fun to do, to work on something like this. Really fun. Oops.
It's a little bit like tending a virtual Zen garden, something. I really like it.
Yeah, good fun. All right, Sam, let's go back to the color sheet. So, what do you think are the benefits of using these gradient texture maps or materials for the actual project? Do you like working with that workflow? And if so, why so?
I think, well, I'm not actually really into Unity, but I think first of like the biggest advantage is performance, since most of it, or kind of every asset uses the same shader. It will probably end up like one draw call, and like at this file, it's a lot of color variations, and the blend file is pretty small with 3.5 megabytes, which usually don't have a lot of blends at that disk size. It's I think it might actually work mobile. I really don't know. I have to investigate, but I think this might be a really performant way of working.
Yeah, you don't say, right? Okay. So, I'm starting to do the UVs of the actual tree here just to see if I can follow your work process. The solid colors would mean I would use a smaller gradient, I guess you could say. Or, yeah, I think I get it. Man, it's also nice to not have to think about UVs as well. Which is kind of nice. Very cool workflow. Look at that.
Yeah, it's really like you can't make a lot wrong. In the end, I think I ended up learning a bit about UVs. Like my last birdhouse I colored had really the gradient I wanted on every UV. So it's a really nice way of learning it. It's, yeah, it's not really complex and not really hard to do, and you can't make anything wrong.
Yeah. You just stick it into the right gradient, move it in, maybe you can like just make it snap into the center. Whoops, but with actual faces, so snap to cursor. Oh, it's collapsing it. Why is it collapsing it?
Yeah, that can be, that's the kind of a bit fiddly part sometimes. But if I get something like the taller trees, which have wider gradient, I really want to see on the whole tree. I usually just make one base mesh, unwrap it, and then duplicate that around, and just move the UVs around a
Okay.
bit with the iterations.
I guess another one you can do is project from view. and then use that as your gradient. Because you don't really need, for example, if I need that red gradient at the top of the tree like this, I can just do it that way, projecting it from the view.
Oh, that's probably
Trays.
Yes?
I have a question. You're good with rigs. If I want to resize a rig, but I don't want to apply the scale, how could I do that without it messing up the animation scale?
Animation? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I believe my bear is too big.
let me just convert this into a mesh. So object, convert into a mesh. Let me just join it all together. Let me just create a quick, let me just quickly UV these. Unwrap from view. We'll use this as like the brown one. There we go. And I'll just quickly unwrap this one as well. Project from view. Okay, so if I have this tree here, let's just flip it to a new collection. Just isolate it. Okay, so scaling a rig independently from its animation. If I have this rig here, and let's just make it in front, you can see it. So here, here, and up here. Something like this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a basic wind animation on this. So just Control P it, automatic weights, go into my animation mode, and let's just focus on it here. And let's just do this for 30 frames. So a rig has two modes of animation. One of them is the location transforms of the object of the armature, and the other is the scale of the actual bone. So if I'm animating, for example, the arms here, so let's turn on auto keyframes, just select everything, click on the whole character, move on to the next frame, move it up like this, move that over like this, and then go over to the next frame, which would be the first frame. So select all the bones, move it to the end. So we got two movements like this, nice and simple. Yeah, it's a looped dancing tree. So we have this dancing tree, and I want to make it bigger or smaller. So now in this case, if I go into my object mode up here, object mode, you notice that my scale of the actual object is at 1. If I make it bigger and then press play, it maintains the movement and the scale of the bones. So the object armature, if you haven't animated the scale of the actual object, I can move it anywhere and it will keep the animation without a problem.
Yeah, how do I apply that?
So you want to apply this, so this is 1, 1.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, if I'm doing that, I can just hit apply scale in object mode.
Messes up the animation though.
The animation remains the same.
Mine gets magnified.
It gets destroyed.
Doesn't get destroyed, it gets magnified. Let me switch to my PC and show you. It'll take me less than a second. I'll just go off and back on.
I am using a 3.5 build, which baked the animation down. If I scale it up again, and then hit apply, object, transforms, apply, scale. You have the option of apply properties and apply the scale. Maybe it's the properties that's doing it. Animation is still the same. but it baked it.
1 second. My microphone was probably set to output, input.
The dancing trees. Man, low poly work is so much fun. It's because you can see the end result very quickly. And it already looks great.
I'm having a problem. I'm not sure what it is.
Slight bevel really adds like a little bit of a weighted normal. Super high quality low poly. Now the corners are like softer.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I had a problem when my microphone plugged in. Some reason something was looping, and it was completely off. You see my screen, right?
Let me just log in.
Sorry for that.
Wrong server. Working. Yeah, watching the stream.
So, see the animation, how it is now?
Yes?
So, I take this and I scale it down. Would I also scale the beard down, the mesh, or not? So that could be what it was actually. Set it to be, I wanted it to be 2 meters tall. It should be, that's 2 meters, right?
Now underneath object, there you go.
Okay, so I'll go back here. You see it's moving like this? First of all, you see how it just extended?
Again?
So this is the regular animation now on the first frame. And you see how it jumped?
Oh, the backbone up at the top?
Do I have to parent it to the rest of the rig?
Is it a free float?
It's floating by itself.
Yeah, typically, okay, so this is something that you probably need to keep in mind as a good practice for future rigs.
I was planning on parenting it, but then I just forgot to.
Yeah.
Which one's clicked first, the parent or the...
Yeah, typically you would have a global bone, and then you'll have a local bone, then all of the bones will be parented to that bone. So this one would be parented to this one, and then this one will be parented as the key one.
I'm not looking, sorry.
Alright. So it's basically, when you're building your armature, you have a global transform, and then you have a local transform, and then you build your rig parented to that. So that you have one bone, which also gives you the ability to, for example, if I'm in pose mode, I can scale the global, and this will control everything, and I can animate the local in a different way or a different scale. And
I could probably still do that now.
Yes, you can probably build that in. But as a good practice is when you're building a rig, always build in your global transform root, and then your local transform root, which is kind of like a layer. So that, for example, if you're making like a walk cycle, you could animate the local movement, but keep your global movement for a position and the level. So you would have those as kind of like a workaround to help you guarantee the scale of different things as well.
So how right now would I make sure both are proper scale? So does the beer scale automatically change the mesh's scale?
Yeah, well, I guess this is a question of like, okay, so how do you keep the scale when you're exporting to FBX? The mesh data, which is bound to the bones, will be relative to the bone scale. So
right now, how do I want to send it in and I want it to be the right scale. What could I do now to apply the scale at this scale?
What scene units are you in?
In meters.
Okay, good. So you're at the right scale that you want, or do you want it to be different?
I think 2 meters is fine for a polar bear.
Yeah. So once you're there like that, if you open up your transform panels, we'll go to the object tab on your properties shell. The N panel. Your scale is at 0.3 and just hit apply scale and it should be fine. Also, I wanted to see.
Apply scale doesn't.
There you go.
See, it changes. No, I'll show you. I'll play it when it's. This is not applied. You see how the bat thing, how it moves so much more?
What constraint do you have on that bone?
Nothing.
What is it parented to?
It's parented to. I just parented it to this bone, but it does the same thing when it's not parented.
What is its
Animated
relationships?
location. What's it called? Oh, it's not parented to. Oh, no, wrong bone. This one. It's parented to this one now. It doesn't make a difference for the thing. Let's go item. Whatever this means. For some
You're
reason,
in
when I
edit
apply
mode.
it, yeah, it should be in pose mode.
Have you animated the deltas?
What should I do? And there's no constraints on it.
That's weird.
I can change what it's parented to, but
Have you got delta keyframes animated on it?
what's delta keyframes?
Alright, so in this mirror, well, I'm not sure if it actually works on. Oh no, you don't get delta keyframes.
I just have keyframes on it. I don't know what delta are.
No, sorry, visual. So which keyframe type were you using?
I have no idea. How do I check?
You go inside the animation layouts. Scale, quaternion, transform.
Dope sheet?
Yep, in the dope sheet. Open it up.
What do I press now?
Open up the side panel on the left. The little arrow.
Phone?
The tracks. The tiny little arrow on the left. Beside the 35. There you go. Open up the summary. And then the bone. So if you go into your curve editor. So that's the dough sheet, those are the tracks, everything looks fine. And the graph editor. Now if you hit apply, like these are typically based on, like are you using transform keys? Mostly?
I don't know. I just auto keyed it moving.
Yeah, it's probably transform then.
Yeah, it's transform and rotation, and I think also scale.
So open it up.
Open what up? This?
Yep. Isolate the location channels, for example. That's the one that seems to go off crazy.
Location.
So hide the other ones using the eye icons. Those. Yep. Okay. So if we take a look at one of the keyframes, it will give you
Should I
a
normalize
space.
it?
Yep.
What should I check?
Right, so now hit apply. If the
Where?
keyframes
A?
onto the mesh, onto the rig, sorry, apply your scale. See if it changes your
I
keyframes.
go to the
3D view.
oh here, and
An object
I would
mode.
go to the object mode, right? No, nothing. Nothing changed in the keyframes. If I not unnormalize it, no.
Okay.
Let's see everything.
So in this case,
Fair enough.
maybe it'll be better, instead of applying the object, you can set the make a parent bone as a parent of that everything, and then scale the parent bone
In edit mode.
in edit mode. There you go. So you got that center bone, right? So that center
I got this
bone in
one.
the stomach, that could be your global root. Parent
This.
Yep, of everything.
This is my root currently.
Right, so parent that to the global.
Is this the right order?
Yes, Control P to parent. Keep offset.
I did it the wrong order. It's this, then this. No. Why is nothing moving when I...
Because you're not in pose mode. So
Oh, right. Sorry. Stupid. Okay. Pose.
you may have to parent the legs as well.
Oh,
and the head.
the arms, yeah. Well, they're also legs, technically, right? I remember. I unparented a whole bunch of things because it was annoying me. No, not connected.
Change the other selection. Keep offset is usually best. Looks like that's already connected.
I guess already. Yeah, it's already
pose
parented.
mode.
Second, this one isn't connected. This one is parented.
Everything's fine.
It's parented. It's parented. Okay, that's all good.
So in this case, for example, when you're exporting to your FBX, you can hit a keyframe on your global at
I'm
the
not
right
exporting
scale.
it though.
No?
I think they're just bringing it in. I don't know how that works with Unity.
Yeah, Unity.
Maybe I don't have to apply anything.
Unity converts the blend file into FBX files, then re-imports the FBX files through a script. If you're using it from Blend.
So should I set this to 1 and then scale it inside edit mode?
Yeah.
This mode?
You can scale that, hit a keyframe, and it will export to that scale. That's another easy workaround. Well, it's a workaround.
Scale. And yeah, it works. I think I actually messed it up beforehand, but it's good enough that it's not, because I applied everything beforehand as well at a different scale. Maybe I applied all transforms, but I think it was close enough that it didn't really mess it up. So yeah, it looks fine. And now it should be at 1 scale, right? Sorry for hijacking the thing.
No worries, it is a Q&A. That was a question. We walked you through it.
Yeah.
Partially why it's happening.
Yeah, I think this is good because I need to upload like now because
time is ticking.
I don't know if I'll have time other times.
Okay.
Right. I think this should be good.
Okay, well, I will redirect this into the right track and we'll go back. We'll come out of this rabbit hole. So just a quick summary of the Q&A and critique with 72. We've had Pleebs here talk us through his low poly tree modeling with the meditative process, using a little bit of randomization using geometry nodes. We used the color swatches designed by Quackles, who has been consistently setting that style guide. Nicely done. He's also got a good set of references to get the general idea. The crooked vibe, the old school 90s cartoons, stop motion almost, with like flat bottom vehicles with tiny wheels and big top faces, polygon based geometry and plants. This was a good example and a foundation to get the work going. We've had a quick look at the progress of the actual work, where Killen did a lot of models, Pleebs did most of the foliage, Shmuel here with the bear has been working on some animation, some other stuff as well, and the project has got practically all of the assets done already, and now it is in the moment of setting it up inside of Unity with the actual game mechanics. The project is lasting about 2 weeks and should be done hopefully by the weekend, which is tomorrow or early into next week. So there's a little bit of crunch for the end of the year. Nothing like a tasty piece of crunchy stress to finish the year off. And then we're good to go. So we also had a quick look at just using, working at different scale type of techniques using a global and a local transform of the actual project. And we've had a look at using these gradients as a color swatch, which means I could replace this texture with a completely different one, and all of the assets would ultimately update, which is kind of a very handy technique when it comes to these types of things. So I'm going to bring this back to Pleebs, and I want to ask you concerning design, stylization with the concepts and the references. I wanted to ask you, what checklist do you usually go through to realize or to see if your designs are good to some degree? Because the one thing you're not worrying about is your colors, the general poly modeling style, but how do you know you've done a good job with your assets? What do you have a particular consistency type of quality targets that you keep in mind? And if so, what are they?
Well, at first, like technical optimization, like having this a game asset, and I also have a laptop with Linux on it and no running GPU driver. So I think it's nice if a game can run nice. I think the foliage might not make the biggest part of it, because it's gonna have some nice particle effects and stuff, which is heavy too. But yeah, also looking at the silhouette, this kind of weeping willow, I called it, which you're looking at now, I think is, for practical reason, one of the not really most practical, because when you look from the top down on it, it doesn't really has like a round square silhouette, which probably would help scattering. It's kind of a bit bean shaped. So I think that's generally bad design for trees, but with this being kind of the big hero tree with the biggest trunk and a nice root system, I think it's kind of okay to have it a bit oddly shaped. But yeah, that might be an optimization to make it generally more round, to have it work more nicely with scattering or any distribution system, I think.
And do you know how they're going to scatter these inside of the game?
I've heard something about wave function collapse for the map design, which I think is some kind of spacey term in game design I don't really get, and some way to make random dungeons or random maps. And I don't know if it somehow uses tiles, and then there's, I really don't know what's happening. Some kind of cool stuff, I guess, but I can't really give you an answer on it.
Sounds alright. So during your modeling process, did you go through the silhouette designs of your meshes just to see if the readability was good in your work?
You mean I just made some quick iterations and having this kind of very low poly style, there's
It's very
only
forgiving.
so much kind of, it's dead at one point, and like there's only so much kind of variation to create visual differentiation between them. So I kind of went with some very basic kind of primitive shapes. and yeah, just made some different of them. One cone downwards facing, one cone upwards facing, and it's kind of, I don't know, egg-shaped, or how to call it, something square and something not square. And yeah, I mean, it's really not extremely complicated. It's a really kind of Bob Ross process where
Yeah,
there's not really anything to do wrong, but a lot of happy little accidents.
that's true. Oh, I'm using the weighted normals modifier. So did you keep things mostly faceted, or did you also have to work on the normals to get these trees relatively the way that you wanted them to be?
And the asset specification guide said to turn auto smooth on and crank it up very high and mark sharp what's supposed to be sharp. So I was kind of doing that. So if you look at one of the trees I made, there is a lot of marked stuff at some of them, and some are totally smooth. It really depends.
The auto smooth quite high, but not too high. 80 degrees? 80 degrees is kind of interesting. Yeah, there's kind of a rib around the edge there. Everything else looks smooth. But then this one here, I would really make it smooth. Interesting.
Yeah, I marked those in the diamond-shaped ones, or for example the roots, which were in most cases just two tries. I marked all edges sharp to have it somewhere work, and with that kind of toony flat gradient kind of art style, it's really forgiving, and just having two tries and four edges marked sharp kind of makes a root, and that's really nice. it's a nice nice way of working for some time.
Yep. Well, congratulations on getting these trees done and getting them all sorted, being a part of the project, doing the game jam all together, and it seems like a lot of fun. So, do you think you'll be? Would you like to participate in future game jams that may come in the server later?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I have time at that particular time period, it's been fun all the time. And last game jams result was pretty cool. So, and fun to play in the end. So it's really nice event.
Yeah, you're right.
And if I can, I would like to participate again for sure.
Nice. And one last question. I actually never confirmed what is the actual game mechanic that this game will contain. How will we be able to play this game?
I don't know. I think you should have a computer in the first place, and I think it's last time it had builds for Linux and Mac and Windows, and I think mostly all of them worked to some degree.
Okay.
Windows was the most performant, or I don't know how what the final build was. I tested some Linux build, but in absence of having GPU drivers at that moment, it wasn't really smooth. So in the end, I gonna play it on Windows.
All right. And do you think the game's going to be like the last game jam? There was like a golf game, which was some of the levels were quite difficult. There was a level which had these planets which had their own gravity, and you had to hit the ball and escape the escape velocity of every single planet. And then if you like flying far enough away from a planet, you hit the ground, the global gravity. It was very difficult, and there were some other shots that were difficult as well. Do you think the difficulty in this game is going to hit something like this as well? Or, yeah, like, do you think there's going to be a difficult level? Or what do you think is just a more fun game mechanic?
I don't know. I have no idea how it will finally work out in that way. Because I really, it's really not clear at that moment how it really will work in Unity, and I'm not so investigated in that process as well. If there's some random level generation or something in that way, I think there might be more difficult levels than others, for sure. But yeah, I have no idea. But in general, the mechanics is supposed to be some kind of gift delivery game with
Ah,
driving mechanics. So that's something totally different. For me, probably a bit more familiar than golf games, which kind of was the first for me. So I needed about an hour to really get going. But the space level you mentioned was, I'm not sure if I missed it, because I tried to keep all of the keeping track of the communication, but with that gravity, that was either a secret or a pretty nice surprise. For me, it was pretty mind-blowing to come in that room and being snapped to the planet.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, don't forget all these. I'm pretty sure all the assets will be free for anybody who wants to have them after it's released.
Yeah.
That's usually how all our things work.
Excellent. You can poke
So-
through, including the game project files.
I have no idea, but all the assets definitely will be.
Able to
Pretty
be
sure.
poked around. Similar to the Blender Institute with their latest short film.
I guess,
Charge.
but I never actually tested it out yet, so I don't know. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure Blender's thing you don't have for free, by the way.
Oh, true. Yeah, some of their assets are behind the paywall. You're right.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go. Thanks
Okay.
a lot for helping me out with that. I needed to get that in quick,
Okay,
like
good.
today.
Right. Hopefully it works. Don't forget to keyframe the scale of your global transform.
I did that
Good.
already.
But
I think its
export
auto
it quickly.
keyframe was on also.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Hopefully it's good. I uploaded it. If it's not good, I'll respond to whoever says it.
It's broken.
After, like,
yeah. It's like,
tomorrow
hey,
night
your
I'll
bear
be
is 100
available.
meters large. That's happened
Yeah.
to me before.
Yeah, but I won't be able to answer for a while, so not a while, like a day, whatever. Okay.
Okay, well, have a good
Have
one.
a good weekend.
Thank you. See you later. All right, so this session today is now, we're going to come to a close. I just want to say thank you for hanging out for this time. And hopefully you guys can create your own color swatches. And just one small tip when it comes to low poly design, silhouette is everything. So if you have like a silhouette view of some kind inside of a 3D viewport where you just have flat shading, a single material, white, the viewport background black, use or something vice versa. Silhouette is hugely important because you don't have a lot of topology to help you with the reading. So if you have like a tree that doesn't look like a tree from a certain angle, This will make the game a little bit harder to read while you're modeling. So a good thing to keep in mind is like, well, just rotate around it in black and white, see if it works, and see if your shape language is good. In general, Plebes, you've done an excellent job here. Though some of the trees you can see that, like, for example, this little one here and this one here, they almost looked identical. So with this one here, I made it a little bit wider, for example, to kind of add a slight variation between this tree and this tree. Oh wait, this is probably because it's a copy. But also like language with the trunk as well. So for example, this really big tree here, it looks great from the side here. Like if we move it up, looks very good here. But when I move it around to here, it suddenly becomes like this tall tower of something. In this case, you need to like think of the shape, to think of a more triangular shape with the branch distributions, where the big one's to the right, little one's over here, another one here, so that when I'm looking on the side, I can see one large shape and another small shape here. When I look to the side here, I can see the three shapes. So in the future,
I think what I try to keep in mind with them is that but that's definitely true what you're saying, but that they're like 20 meters tall and you're in a car, which is probably at 2 meters, so you're
down
mostly
here in the ground.
looking at them from, yeah, and to have them look best from that angle was kind of my directive. So yeah, some of the shapes I think probably for optimization I pulled together pretty closely to save 5 or 10 tries per asset, but a bit more. That tree looks really nice and playful. You did like with a bit more open shape. Totally get it.
Yeah, because the reason why is that type of thought. I mean, you've done I'm not saying anything else, but like you've done a really cool design and style. Now it's like if you put your eyes on the bottom here, I could have it, if I had this little tree, this little blob here, let's just make this like a flat viewport, single material, white, like this. So if I have this little blob inside here, for example, and I'm at the ground, I can see it from this angle, but if I go to this angle, I lose the shape. So because I'm in the silhouette, I just move it out to the side a little bit, so that the texture of the tree is always there to some degree. So it has a personality from all of the angles. Move it out to the right a little bit. So on this side, this side, this side, now I can actually see it a bit better. So I can tell which tree it is, all the personality of the tree from all of the angles, which is a small little thing. But other than that, you've done a really cool job. I really like these trees and I can't wait to see it in the game.
Yeah, I think for the game, it's probably just going to be one level where every time you launch the game, it's going to be randomly generated. We'll have a clock with a certain number of that'll be running down, and when the clock runs out, you'll have a score of how many presents you were able to deliver. We have some collectible assets that will, I think, extend the time clock if you pick up a power-up of some sort. Yeah.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to it.
So I don't think we'll have like multiple levels. I think it's just going to be a random level each time.
So you like hit restart and then it goes on to the next. Just get some more points.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Cool. Oh, these are going to look so great in the game. Oh, well done. And all right, so let's wrap it up. So thanks for again. Next week is going to be the last Q&A on the 23rd because of Christmas. Then I will be traveling over New Year's. So on the 23rd, I have a little Christmas special for you. And after that, I will be back in the second week or first week of January, possibly. So from there, I wish you guys. So next week is the extra Christmas special. I'm still cooking up to see what to do for it, but it's going to be something. And I will see you guys next week, same time, same place.